Hey there, JP here. I hope you're doing well. Today I'd like to go over the offer to purchase and contract. As a buyer, this is what we fill out to purchase a property. As a seller, this is what we receive when someone is interested in purchasing a property. So I'd like to go over some certain points on here. It is 13 pages. I'm not going to go over all of it. If you have questions with individual items on this form, please reach out to me. All my contact info is going to be below at the beginning and or end of this. So please just let me know. And again, the items I'm going over aren't the most important items. These are the items that are often discussed the most. So that's what I'm going over. So first part of the form, plain and simply, name, address of the property that we're purchasing. But here's what's important right here. The purchase price, the due diligence amount, and the earnest amount. In the state of North Carolina, it is a caveat emptor state, meaning buyer beware. So what the buyer does when purchasing a home is they now provide a due diligence amount, which is a negotiated amount for a negotiated time frame to conduct their inspections, their appraisals, to ensure that they can get financed, etc. So you have a purchase price, then you have a due diligence amount, and then you have the earnest amount. The earnest amount goes to the attorney, which also shows the seriousness of the offer. Typically, the due diligence amount and earnest amount is going to make up approximately 1% of the transaction. So if we're buying a $200,000 house or selling a $200,000 house, that amount's going to be $500 to due diligence to $1,500 to earnest. So it'll be about $2,000 total, which is 1% of the purchase price. As we go on in the form, the next page will indicate the escrow agent. That's basically, in North Carolina, the attorney with which we are using for, or with which the buyer is requesting we use for the transaction. Because again, the buyer gets to choose the settlement agent or the attorney in the transaction. Next part on page 2 is the due diligence period, like we talked about. Again, typically you're looking at a period somewhere in the neighborhood to 21 to 28 days for a buyer to conduct that due diligence. Obviously, if they want to have 30 days, I would ensure, if I was representing you as a seller, we would ask for them to pay for that 30 days because we don't want to be off the market that long, especially in a hot spring market. So we're going to ask them to give us a little more money in due diligence to facilitate that. And as a buyer, if we're only looking to do 14 days and we can just get everything knocked out because it might be a cash transaction, at that point our due diligence might be a little less. It might be $250, it might be $200. We'll figure it out, but it's all negotiated. Page 3 indicates the settlement date, and here's what's important there. The state of North Carolina, because that lenders are involved and attorneys are involved, regardless of what happens, and say our settlement date is June 1st, we have 14 extra days before that house has to close because they allot us that time frame for lenders and attorneys, okay? So please keep that in mind. Obviously, we don't want to go into that territory. When we close on April 1st or June 1st, we just want to be done. We don't want those extra 14 days, but just know those are there because they know that, hey, it might not be the buyer's fault that this is getting extended this long and it's out of their control. That's what those 14 days are for. As a seller, however, on page 3, it indicates what fixtures are. And this is a big, big question and big issue. My advice, if you have something that has a screw through it into the wall, it's considered a fixture. So your curtain rods or your TV brackets, those are considered fixtures and must stay with the home unless otherwise indicated. And we will indicate that on the next page, which is page 4, which says other items that do not convey. So although you may have put these, or your real estate agent may have put these on the MLS, what you need to know is the MLS is just an advertisement. This is a contract. On the contract, we need to indicate what goes or what we're allowing to go or what doesn't go. Specifically, we want our TV brackets. We want our Sonos system, which is awesome, by the way. Or, as a buyer, this is where you request your personal property. So I want the refrigerator. I love the washer and dryer. This is where this is indicated throughout the transaction. Let's keep going right on to page 5, which for the buyer shows how they're planning to obtain or purchase the home. Are they getting a loan? What type of loan are they getting? Do they need to sell a house before they can purchase this one? All that is indicated on page 5 at the bottom. Page 6 deals with the residential property disclosure and mineral oil and gas rights. If I'm representing you as your agent, as you being a seller, we've already filled these out. We've already uploaded them to the documents and the buyers have probably already seen them. As a buyer, if you have not seen these, when you write this offer, you need to indicate that you have not seen them. Because if you end up getting them and it states that there's all this stuff wrong with the property, at that point you can back out of the transaction, and then we will be compensated for the money that we put in thus far. So that's why this is very important. The next page, page 7, this is where if there is an HOA fee or if there is a homeowners association, it's indicated on page 7 of the contract. Typically here it'll name who the name of the association is, how much the dues are, when the dues are due, whether it be monthly, quarterly, annually, the name and phone number of the person who's managing that HOA. All that should be indicated here on page 7. Page 8, big one here is where if buyers are asking for closing costs and you're a seller reviewing this form, this is where they indicate it on letter I on page 8, where it's the agreement to pay buyer expenses. So please keep an eye on that. We want to see 0 as a seller. As a buyer, we want to see $5,000. Like, we'd love for them to pay for our expenses. But all that is indicated on page 8. Page 9, most buyers these days are asking for a home warranty. Page 9 is where that's asked for. As a seller, I would expect you to see a number come across for $550 to $575 because that's how much good home warranties are going for these days. Pages 10 through 12 are basically just the state saying, hey, everything that was prior to that was a contract, and this is where it asks for your signatures. So that's what pages 10 through 12 are the offer to purchase. There's a lot of lingo there. It kind of goes over definitions and who the parties are and survival and all that. But that basically states, hey, this is a contract, and that's where you sign. And then last but not least is page 13. And on page 13, as a seller, when you receive due diligence monies, you have to indicate on this form and sign it that you have received that due diligence money. This is also where the attorney has to sign stating that they received the earnest money. That's basically what this is. And then as a listing agent, would have to indicate too that I received this on behalf of the seller and have delivered it to them. So that's where I would have to indicate it. But this form is basically just a money tracking form. Who got the money? Where did they send it to? And they have to sign off indicating as such. So I know that was super, super fast. And this form is super, super detailed. And as I'm either helping you make an offer or as I'm helping you go over the offer, we will go over each line if you need to. But for the most part, these are the questions that most people ask for, most people need the most help with in identifying where they are. So again, all my contact data is below. Love the chance to go over this with you a little bit more in depth, maybe over coffee, maybe over a drink, you name it. And I appreciate all your time. Have a great day. Thanks again for letting me help you out. Take care.